break.
Got open man. DJ Moore. End zone. Touchdown. Touchdown Bears.
I am Jeff Joniak.
Blitz is on. Down he goes. Oscar.
What was it like playing for Coach Ditka?
I don't want to answer any questions like that.
Pressure coming. He's in big trouble. Down he goes. Montez Sweat.
And etc.
Now, Bears Etc. brought to you by Geico, with the voices of the Bears, Jeff Joniak and Tom Thayer.
Change did come to the Bears this week, so a new coach will call the offensive plays Sunday against the Green Bay Packers. With Super Bowl winning Bears guard Tom Thayer, I'm Jeff Joniak, and this is episode 111 of the Bears Etc. podcast. It's brought to you by Geico. Thomas Brown moves into Shane Waldron's seat as play caller, capping what has become an urgent matter, what with a 3-game losing streak and a stagnant, underperforming offense over the last 3 games. One drive longer than 21 yards, one play longer than 12 last week, Tom, crossing midfield 4 times in the first half to just 3 points. It kind of reached its conclusion, and a decision had to be made. What are your thoughts on the ultimate decision?
You know, it's something I think that you had to go with, and you had to allow someone else to sit in that seat of vision and to see how he sees this offense working against the opponent and what the opponent is offering you defensively and what your assets are on offense. I think that everybody was kind of in the same thinking process that playmakers need to get more well incorporated inside this offense. And however Thomas Brown sees it may be completely different than the way Shane Waldron saw it. But Green Bay Packers are up next. They have a good plan, but I still believe in the assets, offensively speaking, that the Bears have.
You sure do. I don't know how you couldn't, right? Do you know what they can do? Do you know what they're capable of over the course of their career and in season already? We've seen some of that. So let's listen in to Thomas Brown as he accepts this challenge on the fly, ready for the division to begin against the Packers.
Yeah, here's what I say about fixing the problem. So it starts every day we walk in the building. What I said to the team today and to our offensive staff and players is 2 things you control when you walk in the building. It's your effort and your attitude. So it starts there first, right? How we approach the meetings, being detailed, being locked in, and then transferring that to the actual practice field, being intentional about the walkthrough, but also making practice as hard as humanly possible so the game can somewhat become easier. So to me, that's going to be our focus, what we're locked in on. And so understand that practice preparation always leads to game day execution. So that's our focus.
Thomas, what's your philosophy on the type of voice you want to be for Caleb during games?
Well, first and foremost, I'm always be myself. So I'm a pretty direct person. That's what I kind of told him yesterday when we spoke for the first time. And I've obviously been around him. I've been in the room the entire time, but just in a different capacity. So, but I think on game day when it comes to how you deliver information, to be solution-oriented, to keep myself calm, also keep him calm as well, to kind of decompress it in every single drive we have, to kind of look forward to what's coming in the next drive.
Thomas, what things did you point out to Caleb that he needs to address by himself, regardless of what's going on around him?
Yeah, I appreciate the question. I'm not going to go into detail about what we talked about individually, but again, it was all a positive conversation. He was receptive to it. I talked about what he can fix and be better for our offense. Clearly, obviously, quarterback spot is the most difficult position, so we got to be better all around him. But also starts with how we coach him, being more detailed, being more demanding with just him, but also the entire staff as well.
Are you going to be upstairs?
I'll be upstairs.
Eddie Rufus was talking about the need for creativity in the offense, and that was something that was lacking, and he likes the creativity.
Can you start over? I just missed the first part of what you said. I'm sorry.
Rufus was saying he needs more creativity in the offense, and that was something that was lacking, especially over the last 3 weeks. How do you bring creativity now to this offense?
Well, I think at this point, when it comes to where we are in the season, you can't reinvent the wheel. I'm not going to try to do that at all. That'd be kind of set us in a spiral going backwards, in my opinion. But it's about being able to try to find the best ways to be effective with our playmakers, right? To be able to marry what we do from a formation and motion standpoint. Everything to me starts up front, starts with the run game, how we attack, knock it forward mentality, and we build off of that.
Thomas, what do you think your quarterback does well and that you need to emphasize in your scheme offensively?
I think it does a lot well. I think when it comes to just natural ability from throwing the football is, I think, clearly and obvious. I think being able to understand how to get the ball out of his hands as fast as possible when it comes to the concepts we kind of just end up dialing up, but also being able to let him use his natural God-given ability at times when it's relevant. Not every play, but when it comes to especially situational ball, third down, red zone, and come alive with that.
What did you learn from last year? And I know they're not the exact same situation, but what did you learn about
coaching up a number one pick and everything that comes with it on the field and off the field and the pressure and all of that you can apply this year?
Yeah, again, I get the question. These are two different players in ability and also mentality-wise. Obviously enjoyed that time I had with Bryce last year. Great dude, great player, but these are different circumstances. But as far as the pressure goes, right, pressure to me is a privilege. That means people expect something positive from you. So I embrace that. Excited about the opportunity. It comes with the territory of this job. And honestly, if you don't want that, you probably should do something else.
So that's Thomas Brown, real short, sweet, and to the point. It seems like that's his personality. Tom, anything else strike you in his news conference?
No, I guess it's more kind of a wait-and-see attitude for me because we've been watching the Chicago Bears come aboard since they began OTAs into mini camps, into training camp, and throughout the season. And we've always been impressed in what this offense could possibly be capable of doing this year on offense, even though they have a rookie quarterback. So I'm excited to see where this takes Caleb. What type of incorporation of the weapons that they have does Thomas Brown use that's different than what we've seen in the early stages of the season? To me personally, I need to see more Cole Kmet. I need to see more DeAndre Swift, the receiver and the screen catcher, as I do the running back. I want you to incorporate Roschon Johnson in the passing game as much as any running back that you have on board. And we all know what DJ and Keenan and Rome are capable of being. But, you know, you also have to incorporate Gerald Everett. Here's a guy that was brought aboard to be kind of a stretch tight end, and I'd like to see more out of him.
Have a new or gently used coat laying around? Head to your local Jewel Osco until February 10th and donate one of your new or gently used coats to the 36th annual Chicago Bears Coat Drive. Help keep Chicagoans warm this winter. Also coming up here in moments, Rosevelt Colvin, the former Bears linebacker and former two-time Super Bowl champion of the New England Patriots, joins us from his home in Indianapolis to talk Packer history and some other things going on in his life as he reflects on his career. And good news, Chicago, United Airlines is getting brand new planes with all the bells and whistles like Bluetooth connectivity, screens at every seat, and room from everyone's roller bag. United, proud to fly the Chicago Bears, and you too. So, Tom, let's delve into how this impacts the most important player in sports. That's the quarterback. In this case, Caleb Williams. Let's listen in to what he had to say about the change.
It's tough not scoring as much as you feel you should, or moving the ball as well as you should. I think that's where the frustration has come from. Us having such a great defense and special teams and just overall just players. And then even on the offensive side, just having such special guys over there on this side of the ball and not being able to take the ball down the field and go score.
How frustrated are you with your own level of play the last 2 years?
Yeah, it's frustrating. Obviously, there's passes that you miss and gonna miss throughout the career. That you'll want back or that you want to make, and that's why you work hard at it in practice and throughout the weeks. And then obviously just some passes. I think I've done well protecting the football, not turning it over. But I think getting on a better page with the guys throughout the week of practice, talking about routes, even if we don't get the maybe the look that we're going to talk about, discuss sideline or after practice or anything like that. At least hearing it, so when it happens in game, able to rip it and throw it.
So much of this roster was put together to give you stability in your first year.
Yep.
This happened last week is the opposite of stability. How do you handle?
Obviously saw what happened, and it's tough just because you work all, I guess, forgetting how many months it's been, but you work for how many ever months, and kind of knew Shane before, been drafted here because of the process and stuff, and then trying to building that relationship, and then the guy that you've been trying to get on the same page with isn't here anymore. And so now you have to kind of, adjust, and you have to adjust fast because we're in division now, divisional play, playing the Packers this week. Obviously, a big game for not only just us, but it's Packers versus Green Bay Packers versus Chicago Bears, and so it's an important game for us. Not only because it's divisional, but obviously it's the Packers, and we have to handle it like that, and we have to handle the situation I'm in.
All right, so there's a lot of self-reflection that goes on. His own performance, the performance of everybody around him, and now listening into a new play caller. We know play callers are all unique. They have their own style, and it's a rhythm that must be developed over time. So this is sudden change, no different than a defense being put in position after a turnover and they're defending their goal line. That's what the Bears are essentially doing here, isn't it? Not easy, but not impossible, correct?
Right, but Thomas Brown has been here since the beginning. He's not just off the street and into that office. He's been around here. He understands the development of Caleb Williams. He's been in all the meetings. He understands the strategy of this offense. And so, like I said, this is about vision. How does he see his assets being used accordingly down in distance and field position to best fit this football team, allow it to continue to attack the opponent? And, Caleb, even though he's in the early stages of his development, I do know that they have enough of a relationship already forged where, you're going to continue that process of get Caleb acclimated to the speed of the NFL. But now there's going to be a little bit more emotions attached because you're getting into the division. And just like regular season is different than preseason, the division is different than the rest of the games on the schedule.
Definitely more physical, definitely more emotion involved. And so what the Bears have to do now is pick up the baton and let's keep going forward. Somebody else has got the flag now. It's Thomas Brown and what he has envisioned for this offense. Hopefully, everybody's talking the same language across the position groups, the individual players themselves, and everybody's talking the same language. I'm not insinuating that wasn't the case, but in order for this to work, Tom, and you know what I mean by it, it's a blanket statement, but everybody's got to be on the same page, talking the same language, so there is no interpretive aspect of it. Like, this is our plan. We're going to do X, Y, and Z, and here's how we're going to get it done. Now, you guys, we're putting you in a position to succeed. Go do it.
The thing, too, that I do think that you need to do is Thomas Brown and Caleb need to sit down together, because even though that he was a part of the meetings, he wasn't the leader of the meetings. Now you incorporate a little bit of Caleb Williams and let him tell you what he's really comfortable with. Let him tell you what maybe made him uneasy according to a certain play, a certain route, a certain down and distance. And so take the experience that Caleb has been able to build up into this point, go through a little of the evaluation process, and put him in the most confident position that you possibly can. But let's understand that the defense is part of this discussion as well. They got to continue to play the same brand of football that they've been playing. When you think of the score 19-3 last week, 19 points is not a lot of points given up to an opponent. So if the Bears defense can continue to play stingy football, give the Bears good field position during the course of a game, then that's when you need to see this offense take effect and start attacking downfield, but attack responsibly and make sure that you're using everybody active on this offense.
Tastes like Miller time. Celebrate responsibly. Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, 96 calories and 3.2 carbs per 12 ounces. The man who made the decision to go in a different direction is Matt Eberflus. Let's listen into his explanation of the change.
Yeah, I just feel that, you have to work it week to week. I always say it's a week-to-week league, and it's important that you make good decisions based on where you want the team to go. And we need a team to go forward and upward, and felt that was the best decision.
Offensively about scheme or development that Shane didn't offer, do you think Thomas Brown can step in?
Yeah, what I'm looking for the offense is creativity. Working the guys into open positions on the field, and that takes creativity. But it takes everybody. Working with everybody to be able to get that done. If it's Chris, if it's the running back coach, whoever it might be, using everybody to really do a good job to create that openness, in space to get our athletes in that area. So to me, it's always about that.
There's a lot of importance here, obviously, because there's still a lot of season to go, Tom. And, this happened a long time ago. Remember Jim Caldwell? Ironically, Thomas Brown worked with him and mentioned him in his news conference in Carolina last year with Bryce Young, a very respected coach. Baltimore made that change. They maybe were in a different position at the time than the Bears are at right now, but maybe not. They went to the Super Bowl. So get your players to execute. everybody says it's almost a default, hey, got to run the ball. Well, you got to do both. But yes, the running game will benefit enormously if they can get that thing on track with consistency. There's been starts and stops all season long in that regard as well. That would help the offense. It would help set up the screen pass. It would help take that screen game to a new level to take the starch out of that pass rush, because once you're down a couple scores, that defensive line of the opposition or whatever 3-4 defense might be throwing at you this week, it's a 4-3 defense of Jeff Hafley, they're just going to come at you until you stop it. And you don't stop it, it's just going to continue the next week. So that's what's tasked for this offense right now.
Right. Listen, you just kind of put everybody on notice as well, Jeff, because you made a change on the offensive side of the ball at the highest level. So they're going to bring in Thomas Brown, and he's going to be able to call the offense according to his vision. He's fortunate to be able to have a supportive home crowd where the volume is going to be able to be used on the snap count, the line of scrimmage by Caleb, if he wants to try to be deceptive or make changes at the line of scrimmage. But when you make a change at the highest level, it puts the players on notice as well. They need to play a more ferocious brand of football. No matter what position they play, offensive line, receivers, running backs, whichever, they got to make sure that they go out and play the game to their highest ability, because this is not Thomas Brown putting on a uniform and going on the field and catching passes and throwing passes and running the ball. This is Thomas Brown advising the players on the field what he wants to call and what he wants to call in the next play in order to put these guys in the best position possible. So this is going to be a group effort. Just because they made a change at one position in the coaching staff, everybody else is involved in this change.
Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Illinois, right here at home, driving access toward healthier communities through it all. All right, let's change gears and have our conversation of this week's Bears Etc. podcast, number 111. We go to number 59, Rosevelt Colvin, our guest, the former Bears linebacker. Wore a different number in New England, but he loved that number here with the Bears, the Purdue grad. Always an entertaining conversation. Delved into his life after football and what he sees as memories from the Bears-Packers series that he played in. We talked to this young man about 5 years ago on Bears Weekly. Rosevelt Colvin, kind enough to spend a little time with us. And inadvertently, as I'm typing up your Zoom request, I see 111, and I'm and here it is. Pick 111 by the Chicago Bears in the fourth round out of Purdue back in 1999. Boy, that's a long time ago, it feels like.
Yeah, it was. I actually have an ongoing yearly chat with my man Shives that stood on the table and got me drafted.
Jeff Shiver.
Jeff said he said I had to jump on the table, Rosie, and I'm telling you, you're the best pass rusher in the draft. And he tells me every year that I'm the best pass rusher he's ever drafted. I know he's just laying it on me, but great guy, appreciate him, and my time in Chicago was always a beloved memory.
Rosie, he's not one to just try to give you love. He's got to speak. He's a scout. He's got to speak the truth.
Well, hopefully he keeps telling people that, and maybe he'll find me a job someday. Because I'm, as I like I mentioned to you before we came on, I'm double retired. I'm trying to find something to do, so maybe I can be his his gopher and be an assistant to help find the next great Bears pass rusher.
Rosie, so fourth rounder, did you expect to go in the fourth round? Did you expect to go higher or lower? And how was your efforts at the combine within some of the other guys you went up against?
So I was hoping to go higher just based on my production level during my junior and senior year at Purdue. I didn't necessarily think that I was going to go to the Bears because, Jeff was kind of secretly, scouting. I only talked to him really one time. I think we went to lunch like one time before the draft. My heavy hitters were the Bengals. They worked me out. The Raiders. I can't remember. There's one other team that had a desire for me to play for them. But that was playing defensive end. I was a tweener coming out, and then as my senior went along, I was fairly healthy. And in the last game in the Alamo Bowl, I broke my wrist and dislocated my shoulder in the same game. Did not have surgery on my shoulder, did have surgery on my wrist. That kept me out of the Senior Bowl games, those activities. And I think that hurt me because I wasn't a big performance number guy. Like my 40 time was, at best, 4.8. My bench press was, I bench pressed 225 maybe 17 times. So I wasn't, my numbers there didn't jump off the charts. But my 3-cone shuttle drill was fast as a wide receiver. My first 10-yard burst, that was when they first started measuring it, was fast as a DB or wide receiver. And then, my playmaking abilities. I did a lot of film study and I did a lot of educated thought processing, really very fast when it came to making the plays that I made. And so, I felt like I was able to go second or third round based off of that. But my numbers weren't there, and I fell. And then the shoulder thing, I think that hurt me as well. The booking on the other side was Chike O'Keefer. Chike ended up getting drafted at the bottom of the third round to San Francisco. And that was like the last few picks of the night. I was kind of bummed because, my production level was so high that I didn't go anywhere. And then so I went out. I was a young kid for, every year of my college career. So I turned 21, after my senior year started. I had never went to the bar before, ever in my life. And so I went out that night, draft night, after the first 3 rounds. That was when the draft was on, the first 3 rounds, and then, they went to the next day. I still didn't drink. I still haven't drank. I don't drink alcohol, but I went out with my friends, just hung out, got back probably like, 2 in the morning, fell asleep in my room. I had a couple buddies up. One of my best friends, Dwan Alfonso, used to play for the Chicago Rush, one of the greatest rush linebackers in arena football history, and him and another buddy of mine. Dewan didn't come back to my apartment. Other friend, he was sleeping on the couch. Man, I was laying around. I don't know. I don't remember what time the draft started back then, but I was laying around and got a call on my cell phone. I think it was Dick Duran, and I was half asleep, and that was when they drafted me, and that's the rest is history, man. It was a mixed bag kind of situation, but very fortunate to be in that draft class. I talk to Jerry Zoom all the time, and we call us the 9-9, which is the class of 1999. I think we had 14 draft picks, and every last one of us made the team. Jim Finn was Mr. Irrelevant. K. McNown was #1 pick. You had guys like, Marty Booker, Dwayne Bates, Jim Tucker from Texas A&M, Warwick, obviously, Kari, Samuel, Zoom. There's 2 or 3. Russell Davis was there in the second round. I mean, we had.
Wow.
I don't even know how we got that many draft picks, but everybody made the team. Even the free agents made the team, and next year B-Lack and Brownie came in, and we set the city on fire for a couple years, and then I got the boot.
When you looked at the Bears as a system, you talked about you played some defensive end, you played pro as an outside linebacker, more of a stand-up. So was the system at the Bears right for you, or did you have to kind of turn yourself into their system type of player?
Yeah, I had to adapt. I was more suited for the second team that I played for, which is the Patriots, and being a sort of a stand-up linebacker on the edge of the defense, having to cover, sometimes, but rushing the majority of the time. Just because my experience covering wasn't very good, and I was scared I was going to get cut. There was 2 reasons I was scared I was going to get cut. One, because me and Warwick lost so much weight when we first got there. Like, I think I dropped down to like 220 pounds. So wow. I was 220. Warwick was like 205. So they threatened to cut us. So that was number 1. And then 2, I didn't know how to play linebacker. It was something that wasn't, big to me. And then realistically, at special teams wise, the only special teams that I played at Purdue was punt team, and I wasn't very good at that. So, my role was scary for me. And then, Greg Blosh, the defensive coordinator at the time, sort of carved out a couple packages. I used to call them, I think it was the Cobra package or something like that. And it was me, Kari, and Warwick would all go in, and he would pull out. He literally pulled out Rico McDonald. He pulled out Barry Minter and Sean. What's Sean's last name?
Smith? Sean Harris?
Sean Harris. He pulled all three of those guys out, put us three in. So it was like the young group. So they were pissed off at us because we're taking their pass rush reps. I would go in at end. Carr would go in at middle linebacker, and Ward would go in at weak side linebacker. In nickel packages, and we just go in for blitzing purposes. That's all we did was blitz, and I had to adjust to that. But I think it helped me though. At the end of the day, the next year I was pissed off because they drafted Brian, and they put him in front of me, so I had to teach him a lesson in training camp and make him a Hall of Famer. I'm like, dude, you're not a Sam linebacker. Go play middle linebacker. So they shifted him to middle linebacker. Unfortunately for Barry, Barry got that injury in Minnesota. He fell on his butt and hurt his tailbone, and the rest was history. And but I had to adapt a little bit. But it was it was a 4-3 system. And the Sam linebacker was off the ball most of the time, and that's where I was. And it was it was trial by fire a little bit at the beginning, but I was able to use my hands some. And then I had to work, I just had to work it out. And fortunately, I was able to do some good things on third downs or in passing situations that allowed me to stay on the field. And that got me to, where I was in the New England and now I'm a hated man still here in Indianapolis 24 years later.
I don't know about hated. You are always a fun-loving.
They literally still hold grudges about the Patriots here in Indianapolis. It's crazy to me. I'm like, people get
that's an AFC thing. Yeah, we got our own issues here in the NFC with our hateds.
I forgot. The Colts aren't welcome. I mean, the Colts have issues with the Bears people too, but it is.
Right. Super Bowl winners. Speaking of the hated, we got the Packers this week. So every time I like going back a little bit, and everybody's got a story about their Packer experience. So I'll give you a minute to think on what a Packer experience might look like to Rosevelt Colvin. I know Tom's got the fire. Tom beat him all the time, so he doesn't have any issues, at least as a player. Broadcaster, that's a little different.
I have a few quirky ones. The first one I'll talk about, there's three. One was my college roommate. One was a restroom at O'Hare, and then the other one was just about the town. Green Bay just in general. So
those are good teases.
Yeah. So let's talk about the town. Like literally the hotel we used to stay at, I don't even know that they would even allow folks to stay at that hotel anymore now, like in 2024. Like there was like the mattress, not the mattresses, but the bed covers, the phones. It was like a hotel that you see on the side of the highway that, it's a small rate. The food, it was like, how these dudes playing in Green Bay? Like how they knew, they're definitely not getting the right nutrition because the food that we had, it was just crazy. It was just weird. The hotel we stayed, I can't remember the name of the hotel. I have to go look at my box in the basement, but it was just kind of funky. And then, my roommate was Chucky Corey at Purdue, and he was a defensive end. He played for the Colts for a while, but he also played for the Packers. So I ride him all the time because he was a former Packer, and we get a little heated exchange every Bears-Packers game. And then on the way back from Germany, the last 2 years, my son Miles, he plays on the Purdue basketball team, but he's played for USA Basketball the last 2 years. They played in Hungary. And on the way back, O'Hare is the stop. And in that bathroom in O'Hare, when you transfer through international, when you go check your bags out and check them back in to get to your final destination, in that bathroom, there's a Packers urinal thing in the urinal that you pee on. So I took a picture of it. And I sent it to Chucky. It's just weird. So for me, the Packers are the Packers. Oh, and you know what? Other thing is the last one I'll tell you about is Miles, my son, my youngest son, his girlfriend. For some reason, her sister, they're Packers fans. I don't know why they're Packers fans, but they, her and Miles took some pictures one day, and she had a Packers jersey. And I said, Miles, tell her to take that down, because technically, we can't associate with anything realistically green and gold in this family.
It'd be like a bull seeing a You know,
Yeah.
a red towel. You
Red
get
towel.
your football gear back on. Tom, you got a quirky Packer story since you've had so many over the years. I mean, almost 40 years.
Kind of like the Rosie's talk about a hotel. The first time I went there, we stayed at a 2-story hotel that, they kept pulling the fire alarm all throughout the night.
It's the same hotel. I guarantee you, it's the same hotel. It's like how
it is. I know it is the same. I know it is the same hotel, but it's a brand name, so I don't want to say it just in case.
I don't know. Did the hotel, the one you're talking about, did it have? I want to say it had a restaurant. I don't want to say Shula's, but I don't think that's right. Did it have?
No, that was in Appleton. That was in Appleton.
Okay.
Yeah. That's where we typically stay now. So
all right.
That was in Appleton.
All right.
But Tom, who's the one guy you hated playing?
The one, because we had all the bad blood. We had the one where they dragged Walter Payton over the bench, well out of bounds. They had the play that they hit Matsui seconds after the whistle blew. So I think it was more of how much Mike Ditka disliked Forrest Gregg, the head coach, and he just made a point of emphasis all week how there's no way we're going into Green Bay and getting beat by a team led by Forrest Gregg, and we kind of had that talked a lot about during the course of our time there.
I can relate to that, Bill. When in New England, I would say Bill's Forrest Gregg was the Jets and
Rex Ryan,
a good old buddy Rex Ryan. It was I don't know. Dude, when you retire, when you resign on a napkin, that is the epitome of I really don't like you guys. And still doing that to the Jets, it was crazy. But yeah, I think for the Packers, it was just to parlay into your story about somebody the toughest person. I hated playing Brett Favre or guys like Brett Favre just because he would just get rid of the ball so fast. And for me, it was like, dude, what am I going to do? Why am I even out here rushing? Because by the time I get 2 steps up the field, the ball's coming out, and it's a done deal. So I hated playing against Brett Favre, really.
A great lesson for all quarterbacks, right, Tommy? Get rid of the ball quick.
Well, defensively, if you're a coach and philosophically and you play a quarterback like Brett Favre, would you rather drop into coverage to take up a throwing lane? Because I don't think your rush is wasted on an offensive lineman. But now in hindsight, would you rather drop off instead of rush?
Well, I think there's a complicated or loaded question when you got to think about what your defensive scheme is, fundamentally, but then 2, what the offensive scheme is that you're going against. Because if they have receivers that are catching those quick routes, it's basically just a quick, a running play,
right?
Extended running play. So I would say, based on where those throws are happening, if he's throwing, if he's got a fast receiver and he's just throwing lobs up top, then that's different versus, he's running a quick outs or running, pick routes and stuff like that. Then, getting your hands up or rushing 3 and dropping, 8 is a maybe a preference or a better suited situation. And then in crucial moments, you go back to your fundamentals or who you are, ideally. But I think there's a lot of things that that are based on that. If you got a good offense, then you're always going to have an outlet or an option for that quarterback to get rid of the ball, and so that quarterback doesn't look bad. I look at some of these. I'm not going to say some of these. I watch college football and pro football, and it's laughable. I'm like, okay, this is a blitz. You didn't pick up the blitz, and then you don't have a guy out to release for the quarterback to drop the ball off to. Doesn't make any sense. And then when it comes to defensive schemes, knowing your personnel is what I learned a lot in New England. They call it KYP. If you don't know your personnel, then it's going to be difficult to be successful anyway. So I think that's from top to bottom, and it amazes me how some of these guys that are coaches, not players, coaches, don't know their personnel, don't understand the concepts that they're either trying to attack or the concepts that they're trying to beat from an offensive scheme.
That's an interesting statement right there, because if you're watching a lot of it, you're obviously seeing a lot of what you're saying. So
I tell people all the time, I watch football nowadays just as casually, and it's laughable. I sit there and laugh at the situations that I see come up that coaches aren't prepared for, because for 6 years in New England, we literally would practice these moments and these situations and scenarios. And People come out, the Patriots are cheaters and said, no. Bill just read the rule book and saw where there was a area that wasn't covered or there was a gray area, and we just exposed it. And then next year they made a rule to keep us from doing that. And so, a lot of people just don't have that depth of knowledge that Bill had, the group of folks that he had around him. But I just, I learned so much. But I literally laugh at some of the stuff that goes on, on game days nowadays. It's like, man, you guys aren't practicing that? Like, you didn't go over that? Oh, okay. Well, that's why you lost. But
you both won a Super Bowl. You both feel special because of that. Because it's such a hard thing
Rosie
to get.
won 2.
I know.
Feels special because of that.
He won 2, but I mean, the magnitude of it on the biggest stage in sports, and it's so hard to get. And even when you got a really good team, a legendary team, you may not win it again. Explain from both your perspectives. Let's start with Tommy.
For me, I knew what I was getting into when I showed up at training camp because they got beat the year before in the NFC Championship game by San Francisco, and it was a pretty determined group of guys, including the coaches, Ditka, Buddy Ryan, and the rest of the assistant coaches, that their only goal that year was to win the Super Bowl. So, like Rosie, I mean, I went into that season not knowing if I was going to make the team, and I was a 4th-round draft choice. So I had my sights kind of tapered down to just making the team and then being a part of that ride that, went all the way to the Super Bowl. And so I was, a super fortunate football player to be able to do it in basically my hometown and get the biggest opportunity out of it for that year, for the future of my career, and for the future of my life.
Yeah, I would agree in that. It's definitely a special situation. You'll never forget those guys that you were with in those locker rooms, on those fields. And obviously, at that one, specific shining moment when the clock expires and you realize that you are a champion. My experience was a little bit different, and based on my first year in New England, I kind of knew I was going to be on the team, but that was the year that, I had the hip injury. So I didn't get to play in the Super Bowl. So I witnessed everything that was going on from a, administration standpoint, training room, practice, game day, all that stuff, all the way up to the Super Bowl, but I didn't get to play. And so the next year it was like, man, did I just miss my opportunity to, make that, to be a part of it physically on the field? And then, just the way things are well, when Bill was there, were ran from top to bottom, just allowed a extended period of success that I just don't know if it will ever be repeated. I know the Chiefs are hot. They've won 2 of the last 3. I think they've won 3 total. I don't know how many they've won in the last few years since Andy Reid's gotten there, but I just don't know that they'll be able to sustain that type of success that we had when New England. You're talking about 22 years of just dominance of every weekend we win in every game thinking that we could win, not because we were cocky and arrogant, because we were confident in the work that we did each and every day. That's individually and collectively, from a coaching staff as well as the players, down to the guys that were the trainers, to the guys that were the field people. Everyone knew that the agenda, like you said, Tom, we were trying to win a Super Bowl every single year. And to be able to go back and experience that the next year, to be able to not just be on the team and maybe play, a few downs, but to go back to the Super Bowl and then get to start in the Super Bowl and able to make a couple plays was everything to me. And my kid, we were at Purdue 2 days ago for Miles's game, and Raven, I had to park a little bit further because we got there late. And Raven, my daughter, who's at Purdue, plays volleyball, she had to drive us to our car after the game, and in the back seat was a Patriots cover. I'm like, Raven, why do you have my cover in here? And she says she takes it with her, on her away games on the bus and stuff. And so those are moments in my life. Obviously, Tom, like you said, being in a hometown kid, state kid that was able to accomplish one of those once in a lifetime situations or moments is special. And I'm still living to this day, man. The Lord has blessed me and continues to pour favor on my life, man. I'm sitting in this house right now because of the luxuries that I were benefited or given to me playing those 6 years in New England, the building years in Chicago, and then just being able to be good with my money and hopefully sit around and look at my kids and hopefully one day they have kids and my grandkids, and been doing other podcasts with you guys over 10 years.
Hey, you're still a young man.
Rosie, I was looking at some of your team pictures and stuff of the guys that you played with. So you just take the linebacker position. Is there a best that you played with, or did you play with a couple of the best, excluding yourself, obviously, but you played with some pretty solid linebackers in NFL history?
It's hard, man. I tell people all the time. Like, people ask me like, where do you feel like? What was the best time? Which was the better team? And I'm like, man, that's tough, bro. Like, my first 4 years, we were young, and like I said, our rookie class, everybody made the team. Like that was a time where like everybody in our rookie class, well, not everybody, but probably 7 or 8 of us in our rookie class all went and bought motorcycles together, and we would go full, motorcycle club downtown Chicago, like just stupid stuff. Like as a young person with money. I mean, Ty, you remember me and Ward did the whole, show where we came in and you were in there watching film, and I replay that every year. And we were just young. And then, like I said, Brian's rookie year to his second year, like we were we were killing it.
Yeah.
Like
2001 was
2001 was an awesome year.
Awesome.
And that, I think I could have. I don't think I went to. I was an alternate for the Pro Bowl my last year in Chicago. Didn't go because I had to get surgery. So I literally had surgery New Year's Eve on my shoulder, the one that I should have had surgery coming out of Purdue. We had an awesome time. Our Dale Lindsey, our linebacker coach,
Sergeant Slaughter.
Oh my God, Dale was.
That's what they called him.
He's my guy, but he was the worst.
Love him. Love him.
We dreaded practice because practice was harder than the games. We literally walked in. Me, Ward, and Kari walked in after our first mini camp and said, "There's no way we're playing 3 years here." Because we walked in. We said, I told Ward, I was like, "Man, I'm done. I'm gonna get my 3 years of my contract and I'm out." We walked in the locker room. Barry Minter, Sean Harris, Rico McDonald, Andre Collins. They all were like, I don't know what to say about it. They were like. They were saying they couldn't even survive. Like Andre Collins in training camp, he yelled out in stretch lines, "What does a brother got to do to get a pink slip around here?" I said, "This is crazy to me." So I didn't know. So Chicago was a different animal. When I got to New England, I literally was in my 5th year as an NFL player, 24 years old, and I was the youngest dude in the linebacker room. And in that linebacker room, I had Mike Vrabel, Teddy Bruschi. I had Willie McGinnis, Ted Johnson, Roman Pfeiffer, another young kid. He got drafted. Tully came. Tully was, like a year younger than me, but still, it was crazy. In the defensive line room, we had coaching was Pepper Johnson, and then the next year you bring in Adalis Thomas from Baltimore. You bring in Junior Seau. Like, this is stupid stuff. Like, I'm sitting around like I literally have played with probably 10 Hall of Fame guys, like 10 Hall of Famers, hands down. And I just don't know. I can't tell you which one was the best. I think there's a lot of stress to remain relevant as a player in New England because it was all about winning. I was so young in Chicago that, again, young and dumb, don't really, have no senses. And so I think the culmination of all that is just the greatest story ever. And I just think back on it, and it's been a blessing to me to be a part of a lot of those personalities. And, I think about those dudes all the time, every day.
Rosie, so Jeff and I recently did a podcast with Rob Ninkovic.
Oh, my man, Rob.
He talked about looking at the linebacker room and seeing all you guys up there going, how do I fit? Where do I fit? What can I contribute? And I think, just the question marks of a young guy walking into your linebacker room has got to be as intimidating as well.
I literally, so when I went out to New England, not to extend this on, but I went out to New England, I was like, dude, I'm finna be the next LT. Like, I'm on the line. Like, literally, when I went on my visit to New England, they picked me up in a 95 white Ford Taurus, no limos, Hotel was just as bad as it was
Yeah.
in Green Bay. I get to the stadium, no lights on, nothing. They take me on the dude, the Bill's assistant, Bears Nigerian, great guy, takes me up on the elevator, says, "Hey, this is the club level suites, yada yada yada." Takes me back down. I go to Bill's. I sit there and watch film with Bill for like 2 hours. He's pulling up Bears film of me, asking me what this call was, what was your responsibility, why'd you make that decision, and then he's pulling up Giants film and showing me LT Pepper Johnson, like them against the Eagles. I'm like, dude, what the heck is going on? And so when they signed me, because I didn't want to go there, by the way, but they signed me because they ended up giving me the best contract. I'm like, okay, I'm be the next LT. Get the training camp. I'm burning off the ball because in Chicago, if I'm ever up on the ball, I'm typically going. And in practice one day, Bill was like, "What the F are you doing?" I'm like, "Dude, it's a blitz, right?" He was like, "No, like you got to read it first." I'm like, "What are you talking about? I saw it. I went to go get it." So I'm running. I'm killing stuff. I'm train wrecking stuff in the backfield. It's like, no, the integrity of the defense. You can't run up the field right here because then you create a gap. If you don't make that play, then you put the outside linebacker or the inside linebacker in a bind. And if he gets held up by a play action or something like that, then the running back's downhill onto the safety in the corner and he's one-on-one. I'm like, dude, that's a lot of information, bro. Like, can I just rush the passer?
Yeah.
And so I had to really learn how to play football. You can ask Rob. And if anybody wants intel on how it was every single day in New England, watch Inside the NFL with Bill sitting up there with, I think it's Chad Ochocinco. He's a defensive.
Is that Chris Long?
Yeah, Chris Long.
Yeah,
dude, that's exactly how it was every day in meetings, and it was like we were sitting in like middle school, and we were learning about football, and it was everything. So I had to readjust my thought process on that. But man, some of those rooms that I was in, just the amount of fame and stardom that I've just been able to experience and be with is just it's just been an awesome experience.
And then to wrap us up, so we'll let you go. Yeah, we could talk to you all day about stuff like this because it just reminds me of a conversation I had with Lovie Smith. He obviously came after you left, but I always would get into these philosophical debates about playing your gap because when you got Brian Urlacher and Lance Briggs and guys like you, if the ball's going to your right, you read your key, you go. But Lovie, you got to protect your gap because what about the cutback? And we get into these discussions and it just defied my good sense that a man with instincts would run opposite of away from the football to protect his gap. So anyway, you're a heck of a dad. You've had to had unbelievable, almost a second bite at the athletic apple from a father's perspective with a family of great athletes, and you're being humble about your daughter. She's all Big Ten volleyball star, and Miles doing his thing as well. And I know you have two other children. How gratifying has that been to help them along and then observe them take off?
It's been really good. For me, I try to let my kids be themselves. I don't try to shape them into who I am. I think at the end of the day, if you look at my kids, like specifically the two that are active right now athletically, Raven takes on my personality more. Miles takes on Tiffany's personality a lot more. And that pisses me off sometimes because, I want Miles to be so enraged. He just releases it when he needs to. But it's very humbling, specifically because they're at my alma mater and they're doing well. I think for them to enjoy being there and to excel at their own specific sports is even a greater gift. And I enjoy every moment of it. Me and Tiff. So last year we shut down Tiffany's Bakery. 15 years of Sweetie's Gourmet Treats. We shut it down.
Wow.
And we decided the exit plan to get out of the UPS store business. I'm about a month out and being done with that. And we decided to travel to watch Raven and then watch Miles. And so we bought a Sprinter van and we are literally with each other 365 days of the year. She's my best friend, and we are just tickling ourselves to be able to sit and watch them do things that we've seen them do, from childhood. And as a father, I've tried to learn the nuances of volleyball, specifically with Raven. I love that she has become or taking on the same kind of role that I have in football, being an undersized person for her position and dominating. She's the best middle blocker in the country. She reads, has instincts. She leads the Power Five in blocks, and in my personal opinion, is going to have a great pro volleyball career. She brings the fire, the passion, the leadership. I think a lot of the things, the intangibles that I had as well, and we enjoy seeing her. I've learned a lot, and I wish I knew volleyball sooner than I did, 7 years ago. But at the end of the day, she's a joy to watch. And then Miles, obviously, being basketball is is really my first love. I played football because I couldn't play professional basketball. I tell the story all the time. I was set to go to be a walk-on the Purdue basketball team my third year at Purdue. Coach Katie had approved it. Coach Coletto, who was the head coach at the time, said it was good to go. Then Coach Coletto, obviously left, and Coach Tiller came in and he said, "No go. You got to be here for the spring." And so basketball is my love. I still coach my basketball program, the same program that Miles played through. And so with Miles and his situation now at Purdue, I love watching him play. This year getting the opportunity to actually get in the games and participate and contribute is awesome. And so we've seen some things from him that, the last couple of games that we all knew that was possible. And I just try to help them, with my experiences with Bill and Scott Pioli and Mr. Kraft in New England when it comes to just managing the situations and scenarios of egos and, teammates and being able to get the best out of you. And some coaches may not do it the same way, but I try to help them, in just dealing with, what a coach may have said to them, how a coach may be using them, the thought process on addressing the game, but then, what it is to be a professional, because there are a lot of things that go into that, pre-hydrating, preconditioning your body, stretching, eating, nutrition-wise, just making sure that you get enough rest. A lot of that stuff is a part of the process of being a dad. And then ultimately being a dad, being a psychologist, being a parent, and just being there for them. And it's hard sometimes, specifically with Miles, because, like I said, he pisses me off with his his attitude and the way he addresses, he approaches some things. But love the kid to death. He's, obviously he looks exactly like me, has all my features, and I'm just hoping that he gives me the dream of one day being an NBA player, because that was one of my favorite, one of my things that I had to do, and I just never accomplished it.
That's awesome. It's like the second chapter of your life,
Yeah, and I'm enjoying it, man. I'm like I said, I'm truly blessed to be able to experience the situations that we're going through. I tell them all the time, my mom is in heaven doing cartwheels watching Raven do what she does. My dad recently passed a couple years ago, so we had him. So my sister still lives in Matson, Illinois, so I'm in Illinois all the time. So, my Bears family and people up there, every time I'm in Chicago, somebody recognizes me, which is crazy to me. Somebody, says my name. I'm like, dude, that was 20 years ago. But yeah, these two young people are doing an excellent job, and we're very fortunate to be able to witness that, and hopefully we got more years to come.
Let him go.
No, I'm inspired by Rosie. I'm glad he's. The thing about it is the emphasis on your kids' athleticism. It's not so much what they do. There's a great book out there, and it's called Pass Set Spike. It teaches you everything you need to know about volleyball. But I think more the things that you talk about behind the scenes of sports is as important for these kids' success than it is of, you talking to them specifically about their sport to them. Sometimes you got to stand back and let the coaches coach.
Yeah. Not to drag it on, but I try. Like I said, I try not to be a criticism or a criticizer of who their coaches are at that specific time, and just really try to analyze and figure out how they're using them or using their teammates. Because again, man, Bill Belichick, the things that he did, or as a coach, the way he coached and the way he just constructed a roster, the way he sort of manipulated different players into multifaceted players and help them turn into a different player, or help that player be better for the group or the whole. It was amazing to me. And so I took those lessons, and applied them to my businesses for the last, 18, 19 years. That was how I ran my UPS stores. Managing the cap at my UPS store was trying to figure out how much I'm going to increase my manager, but then bring on a new staff member that was, an hourly salary, non-salary worker and stuff like that. And so I learned a lot of good lessons there, and hopefully, like I said, I can continue to pass those along. And Miles didn't play football, but I have some nuggets that, man, if he'd have played football, it'd have been Rosevelt Colvin 2.0. He would have been killing it out there, because some of the stuff I used to do, I still see nobody doing right now. Like, literally, I have notes and I have things that I would write that I would say to myself and do that no one does nowadays. And I've kept that. I was keeping it for Miles, but he got too good at basketball too early, and so I guess I got to wait till I get either a grandson that is a beast or an animal. So we go.
Hey, there's plenty of time. Rosie, we love talking to you, man. Appreciate it. Just scratch the surface. Really appreciate it.
Man.
Appreciate it. In honor of Bears-Packers week.
There we go. Bears-Packers.
All right. Cheers. Thank you.
All right. Take care.
Thank you, Rosie.
So enjoyed that immensely. He's turned into a great man, great father, very active in his kids' lives, and a lot of great stories to tell for sure. Enjoyed that.
For me, it's so rewarding to talk to these guys so many years after they retire, because we know Rosevelt Colvin as a draft choice from Purdue who was able to rush the passer, was really involved in some good defensive football here, and then went to New England and won some Super Bowls. But then you think about his afterlife, his business success in multiple areas, his success as a father and as a married man, in the way that he's been involved in his kids' lives. I got to tell you, some of these interviews that we get to do with the alumni and the alumni of the Chicago Bears, it inspires me, because as we're broadcasting their games as young men, we never know how they're going to turn out. And then when you get a chance to talk to a success story like Rosevelt Colvin, it should inspire other guys around the NFL and other Chicago Bear alumni.
Couldn't agree with you more. Bears fans, Steinhafels, a proud partner of the Chicago Bears. This Bears season, Steinhafels is partnering with Special Spaces Illinois to create dream bedrooms for children battling cancer. For every false start caused by the Bears defense during a home game, Steinhafels donates $1,000 to Special Spaces Illinois. Shop in-store and online at steinhafels.com. All right, let's dig into the pack a little bit. The Geico brings you more football stat of the day. It involves two of the key figures on defense for the Green Bay Packers, Tom, and that's Rashawn Gary and Kenny Clark. They're playing different positions now. It's a 4-3 defense. Kenny Clark was a nose tackle in the previous system, in the previous regime. Now he's having to chew on some tackles and guards and not just dominating at the center position like he was. The result, he's still trying to feel his way out a little bit here. 0 sacks so far and 2.5 sacks for Rashawn Gary. Both have had great success against the Bears during their time in Green Bay. So I don't know what that means for the Bears offensively in terms of protections. I still worry about both of those guys. They're outstanding penetrators and disruptors. And while Kenny may not have any sacks, he leads that team in pressures.
Well, the one thing about playing a 4-3 defense, you can always design your protection to slide towards those guys. And then you can have multiple hands in an attacking position when the ball is snapped. And if you can take a guy like Kenny Clark and stab him with your offensive guard and then have that center slide over there and help you with that strength part of the initial stage of the pass protection, and maybe even that guard can slide outside to look at Rashawn Gary. That's the great thing about the offensive line, and knowing the protections and knowing how to slide against where the defenders are lined up. So I still have a lot of respect for Clark. I still think Gary is a good football player, but when you think of the types of weapons that the Bears have on offense, they're going to have some defensive coverage concerns as well. So maybe it'll change up at the way they try to attack the line of scrimmage. We'll see during the course of the game. And Caleb, all he has to do is hit one or two early passes, and it'll change the thinking process of the whole defensive staff over there.
Well, it goes without saying, protecting the football is going to be important. He's done a really good job at that. He has. That he definitely has protected the football. But this is a takeaway team, much like every team is in this division, and they're doing it very well. They've already eclipsed what they did all of last season, and they're taking those and turning them into points offensively. So protect the football, because guys like Jair Alexander, guys like Xavier McKinney, who's having a great year, leads the league in takeaways with forced fumbles involved as well. So protecting the football be job one. And let me ask you, because I went back and watched the Vikings and the Lions matchups with those guys, and they were trailing big in those games. 28-0 against Minnesota, 24-3 against Detroit. Anything that you picked up on tape that is, in your opinion, exploitable of that defense of the Green Bay Packers?
Yeah, I do think, and it's something I've been harping on for a while. I think if you're really willing to commit to the interior point of attack, Jeff, and so I'm not, I still want DeAndre Swift and Roschon Johnson to see the football field after they get the handoff, as, according to all running backs. That's the innate ability for these guys to see the field. But I really do think if you concentrate on the most powerful part of the blocking scheme of the Bears offensive line, you're always going to have that chance to get that 4 yards. And I'm not unrealistically asking for a touchdown every time they carry the ball. I just want 30 offensive carries in the game that average at least 4 yards a carry. You think of that time possession, you think of the relation, how it affects you in a real makeable third down situation. So it is exploitable. There's a little bit of width to their lineup when you talk about a 4-3 defense. So if you can sustain a powerful block at the line of scrimmage and you can push that defensive lineman into the path of the linebacker, that's when you're talking about those 4 yards per carry. And I do think it's exploitable, because you watch the running game of the Detroit Lions when the field conditions and the weather was awful. Detroit was able to run the ball. And it's the same thing against the Vikings. I do think that when you look at what these defenses are about, I do think that in Green Bay at home, with the offensive line being able to hear the snap count, I still think this has to be a run-first game plan than it is a pass-first game plan against them.
All right, and lastly, the Bears did move on from Nate Davis. A lot of reasons why, but unable to go last week after not having any issues in practice, came down with a back injury, didn't play in the game. So that page is turned, and it's a sunk cost. It is what it is, and now somebody else gets an opportunity to be in that rotation. Jake Curhan up on the active roster now for the Bears. Ricky Stromberg, former offensive lineman from Arkansas. I remember him from Combine days. Very, very aggressive offensive lineman. He's on the practice squad now.
Yeah, good. You got to bring up developable talent, even though you have a little bit of experience. And, guys that have been able to shuffle up and down the line of scrimmage, and Matt always refers to it as cross-training by Chris Morgan for these guys. So, listen, the most important part of the schedule is ready to get underway, and I'm so excited about it on this Wednesday that I just can't wait to get to the stadium on Sunday. And I want to see a new, revigorated Bears roster, and to match the emotions of the fans coming into the building and what they know they're capable of.
Exactly, Big Tom. We're brought to you by PNC, official bank of the Bears. That's going to close out episode 111 of the Bears Etc. podcast. Special thanks to Rosevelt Colvin, the former Bears linebacker, and to you for listening. Special thanks as well to Big Tom. I'm Jeff, and thanks for subscribing on the Chicago Bears official app, Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. We'll talk to you on the radio Sunday, 12:02 on ESPN 1000 of the Bears Radio Network. Bear down, everybody.